Well, I'm pleased to be welcoming Dr. Renee Moorefield to our Fireside Chat today. And Renee is a pioneer in the work of holistic leadership development and the link between leadership and thriving in workplaces. And at Courage, we've had a long-standing interest in how we can work with holistic leadership in organizations, and this notion of really making a difference in terms of people thriving in workplaces. So we're just delighted to have you with us, Renee, this morning.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Renee's got like 35 years of background in this. And one of the things that I was curious about, Renee, as we start today is, what propelled your interest in this whole area of holistic leadership development and thriving?
Well, it started, as you mentioned, 35 years ago. I started as an exercise physiologist and in health education and wellness education. And I could see pretty quickly, without going into the whole background story, because that's a long time ago, but I could see pretty quickly that the wellness of people was thought of as an afterthought, not really an asset to the organization that I was part of. I was part of an enormous global company that was an information technology company. And we in our world, in the health promotion and wellness promotion world, we were getting the people that were super stressed out because of mergers and acquisitions that were fueling the company's growth, but weren't done with people in mind. The technology, they were looking at technical systems, how well did those match? And those would match well, but they weren't looking at people and culture. And so we were seeing the stressed out people on the back end. And it made me realize, wow, if we could upstream be thinking about in how we make these changes and how we lead initiatives and how we lead all together and how we design our organizations, we could eliminate some of the distress that people felt. So that was my early on kind of insight. I guess I was in my early 20s then. I then became in a leadership role myself and just found myself there. Never knew that I was going to be in management, but found myself in a management role and realized that I had more opportunity in that role to create an environment where people could show up really well, really whole, really growing as human beings, and the kind of environment that people wanted to be at work and wanted to engage and felt really fulfilled. And for me as a leader, that felt like a primary role for me. So that led me to this role of leadership and how important it is for leaders to not only see their role as creating environments where people can thrive, but leaders who can demonstrate kind of the behaviors of wellness in their own lives and operate from a deep level of well-being and resilience themselves.
Wow.
So
I
those
remember
early on, those were those connections. Now, I won't say that my journey has been kind of the up and down on lots of learning and growth too, but that's where some kind of the early connecting the dots happen. And that I got a sense we're missing out on the best of people because of what we're not paying attention to in our organizations. And luckily today, where organizations really are talking about thriving and resilience in a way that they never have before.
What does holistic mean to you when you're thinking about your work, Renee?
Yeah, it's interesting because when most people say holistic, they have categories like mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, career, etc. And
Yeah.
those are great categories, great avenues in. But I kind of think of we already are whole. As when you look at nature, anything in nature, you already can see, and if you study nature, you sense that nature has within it it's already biologically hardwired to thrive in its wholeness, in its fullness. It's also hardwired to survive, and in the right conditions, it will thrive. So even though those different distinctions, physical, emotional, mental, I've used those as well. They're not my favorite because there is no time when we are not a body, when we're just our mental. well-being. There's no time when we're not also our physical well-being. There's no time that we are just our career. We're also, a human being that comes and shows up for that career. So I like to think of wholeness as an innate principle of who we are. And what we're trying to do in our work, and Donna, I think your work as well, is to help people have healthier relationships to that wholeness, to themselves, and to see the ways that all of us, the attitudes we bring, the behaviors we bring, the choices we make that connect us back to that fundamental well-being and wholeness, or take us away from it. And how we operate in ways with each other to help people connect with their innate wholeness, or in a capacity to thrive, or disconnect from it. So that's what wholeness means to me. Even though I do the distinctions we talked about, physical, mental, emotional, that is popular, and it's easy, certainly easy to talk about that way. But I like to think of it more as wholeness is innately what we are. This is about a relationship to ourselves that is more loving, more kind, more empowered, more honoring of wholeness as people.
And I love that notion of it innate in us, and that we're basically reclaiming our humanity in the way we work together. And that's just such a powerful framing that alone changes something about how I look at leadership, I think, when I hear you describe it that way.
Well, when you think of leadership as your role is to help people reclaim humanity. I mean, I love the words you just said. Your role is to, and that includes you. So I always like to add that, and that includes you, because it's not leader as someone in a tower somewhere or in a position of power somewhere distant from that conversation. It is, you are a facilitator, you are a coach, you are a guide, and you are supporting people in reconnecting to themselves in a way that they naturally grow. When we feel fundamentally well, like in our being, we naturally grow well, we naturally learn, we naturally are able to evolve, we naturally can look at points of view outside our own, we don't get as stuck in our own egos. So there's so many things, so many benefits. And those are the kinds of capacities we need in our organizations. We need people to come together collectively and work in ways that they produce results that they cannot produce alone. And to do that calls on us to be the kinds of leaders that supports people in showing up fully and well, including ourselves. We're on the journey like everybody else. And I'll say kind of a definition of leadership, and I think you and I have talked about this at once. I don't actually think of leadership as management. I think management is a role. Leadership is an orientation to the world. Every one of us can step into leadership the moment we say that we take responsibility, not for our own kind of regulating our own nervous systems, being responsible for the attitudes and behaviors and reactive tendencies we show up, and creative competencies we show up. We become responsible for those. And we are leaders when we decide that we are also responsible for creating the conditions for others as well. So a leader can be a parent, a leader can be a family member, a leader can be a neighbor. It is really a stance we take in our being.